Hey, what up, guys? It's your boy Drew. Matt finally responded about being on Fox News, admitted it, and I just want to point out where I was coming from with it, because he called me, sick, very low, pathetic, and I just want to make it clear that it's never, anything I say is never against any creator, whether it's Matt or John Levi or any of these people. I'm one of the biggest advocates of creators' rights on the internet. These creators do have the right to go online and say whatever they want to say, but what I'm seeing a blind spot in the truth community is when they get into these cult of personalities of these channels, and they don't hold the same standards to smaller channels that they hold to the bigger or their more favorite channels. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. And none of the stuff I talked about was anything I've ever found. It's stuff that's been on the internet for a long time, including his insurance website that he didn't mention, that it's actually an international kidnapping insurance website. So yeah, I can see how that would ring some alarms with people that are, paranoid truthers or conspiracy theorists, whatever you'd call them. This site, which is now archived on the Wayback Machine, where he calls himself the principal, it was called McKinleyInternational.com. And there was a group of people in the Discord trying to pin him to the wall and say he's 100% a shill, and here's the proofs that I have. And one of them included that website, and then on that website it looked like this is just a piece of clip art, but it shows McKinley as either a vulture or an owl here, maybe. Looks like a vulture to me, maybe. And it's on top of a globe. So that proves he's a globe-tard shill or something to these people. Now, I don't think that, but these are the evidences that all these people kept bringing forward. And this picture looks like just another clip art to me. So I can see why a conspiracy-minded person would look into this and at least question it, but I didn't see anything there that was like a proof or smoking gun that he was Illuminati or whatever you want to call it. And the other thing these posters used to condemn him and say he's a shill or works for Illuminati or whatever was something called Kung Fu Golf. And the Kung Fu Golf series seemed to be Matt combining knowledge of golf with martial arts lessons, and to combine them both to teach you how to become a better golfer. I don't see anything nefarious with that either, just an old YouTube series. But they would use like the beginning of this series because there's a pyramid in there. So, it had a pyramid, so he's gotta be working for them. And Kung Fu Golf looks like it came with a book as well, and it used the same branding of the Masked Centipede guy. And here in the Kung Fu Golf series, he's gone from the principal to now he is the Sifu. Look at Pam, is that Pamela? And who knew he had these skills, man? And one of the oldest ones you'll see around of anyone investigating into Matt, they'll point out the InfoWars, which he addressed. Again, not proof, I'm sorry, people. But one of the main revelations these guys brought up forward was these pictures of him at Fox News, which he's now no and yesed. But to me, I never seen this anywhere, so I thought that was interesting at the least and something to be aware of. And he's since addressed it, so I guess there's nothing else there, Just seeing this guy on Fox News doesn't mean anything. He's on InfoWars and Fox News. My running guess was that he had some kind of agent, but he's even addressed that and said, yeah, he just emailed him up, and I believe it. But I did think it was interesting and something that people should be aware of, something that I'm definitely aware of, because I'm trying to push these truthers to have better discernment, because if you don't have any proof that he works for any cabal or anything like that, but the same people that I see coming to my channel that absolutely refuse to question Matt, they'll call me an Illuminati shill or something for using a Snapchat filter or for having bows in my beard or any of this kind of stuff that's just as nonsensical as these other things for Matt. But when it's Drew, he's a shill, but when it's this guy over here, no comment. So we all know he's published those books. There's other books he's published in the past, and digging deep into it, other people have found other authors named Matt McKinley that post, psychology-based type books, but they appear to not be him. But he has published several books in the past, which leads me to the question, like with this book that he made, he seemed to have so much trouble of how to get it to the printer and how to do this and that. And that's another question I have about the guy. I don't see any proofs at all that he's intentionally misleading people or anything like that. Questions I have is the weird inability to do this. When he's done it in the past, he does feign technological ignorance, like, I don't know how to turn my camera around, or I don't know how to live stream. He doesn't say, I don't want to do this, which would be fine. You don't have to do any of that. But he says, I don't know how. And the guy seems so smart to not be able to follow a YouTube tutorial of how to flip the camera or something like that. It just seems like a feigned ignorance to me, rather than just saying, hey, I don't want to waste my time doing that, if that's what it is. I don't know. I don't see anything on his part that's intentionally misleading people, but I do see the sycophants in the comments, like, refusing to even question any of his ideas. So what I'm trying to push people to do, though, is find, better evidence for anything, not just YouTube shills. I'm saying even these theories we look into, like Tartarian, things like that. And I do think Matt's work is super, super important, because the most important thing that he says, in my personal opinion, is that he says don't get caught up in the minutia of all these conspiracies, because you most likely can't really prove any of this stuff. You just have to know it's a trick or it's not what you're told, and then move on. And that's one of my only issues with the Tartaria thing, is it's like, I feel like you could spend your entire life digging into Tartaria, 20 or 30 years of your life, and not prove anything, and you just wasted 30 years. I mean, it's interesting, don't get me wrong, but I think that's the most important message from Matt. The other questions I have is how visible he is on the internet. Almost seems intentional, where this is the guy that talks about pissed on breadcrumbs, but it does to me seem like how easy it is to search this guy. It seems almost like a pissed on breadcrumb itself, to me personally, because he had the Texas Shrug channel before. I never watched that. I don't know how big that got. I'm assuming it had a decent following. And then he got this channel, which is huge, and he didn't take that insurance website down until a few weeks ago. The Kung Fu Golf, all this stuff still just sitting there. You could type them up on Facebook and everything like that. It seems like when your channel gets to 5 or 10,000, even if you had never thought of it before, my guess would be you would start doing a little bit online to protect your identity, because people can find out where you live. That could be a potentially dangerous situation for a person, especially with these crazy people on YouTube, man, that I've experienced myself. And Matt sounded a little bit booty hurt, and he thought I flashed that up there just to shed a little doubt on him or something. Yeah, I'm trying to get you to question every single person that's presenting things to you online, including me. You gotta question who these people are and what their intentions are, and match it with what they're saying. Because if you don't, it's easy to get swept away in these things. I showed you the last video of how there's a huge concerted effort to infiltrate conspiracy groups online and to target the influencers in these communities and get them on board to push in these main agendas. Now, I don't see Matt doing that. I don't see any proofs of that. And Matt's still one of the only channels that I still watch on a regular basis to this day. So I think his work's really important. To me, he just seems a little isolated. Like some of the more recent videos, he kind of went out in public and realized just how bad it is out here. And the people that are out here every day, I think we knew that a long time ago. He's showing his house. It's just him and the cats. I don't see tons of high-tech things in there, so it's not like he's sitting on a mountain of money that he made on YouTube and buying electronics and all this other stuff. He seems like a reasonable, conservative type guy that just wants to live, man. To me, he seems like he just wants to figure out what's going on, just like the rest of us. And none of us have all the answers, including me, So as being a member of the truth community, or whatever you want to call it, I think it's pretty lame when people come out and say this is a proof. He had a pyramid at the beginning of his thing, so 100% Illuminati, or his last name's McKinley, so he must be related to President McKinley, and he's running a psyop on you or something. Well, unless you can prove that, I just don't see it. I look at him by the fruits of his labor and his entire body of work, and he has a really good message. Don't get caught up in the minutia. Just know it's a trick and move on to the next one. Everything you look into seems to break down, and I 100% agree with that. So how is that possible? That's where we're at now, 2021. We got to figure out how these things are. Any conspiracy you look into, there seems to somehow be some evidence for it, but that can't really be true, can it? And he did say that no one will ever talk about his ideas or question his ideas or something like that, like challenge him on his ideas, and that's absolutely false. Bent and I and EBT have made a few videos on other platforms questioning his ideas, and I'll leave one of those cards up here, man. If you want to go back and watch one of the videos we did in January where we talked about breaking down some of Matt's ideas and unpacking them. This was before we knew about the Fox News or the Kung Fu Golf, though. I'll leave that card up here for you guys to click and watch that. Anyway, until next time, I appreciate your time, and peace out.